anytime you send the dead out to seek revenge on the living, you're summoning a vampire, because the attributes of the dead when they latch onto a human being is to cause sickness. A vampire, in practicality of magie, is the spirit of the dead. You can find this in Slavic tradition. There is the Strigoi, the moroi. This is making reference to the spirit of the dead, and many have linked this as being the origin of the vampire. Look at the origin of the modern Hollywood vampire. Its origin is Slavic, but I can't even necessarily say that, because the concept of the dead affecting the living is as old as the world itself. When we speak of the vampire, this is something that is ancient. This goes back to the days of old. We're speaking about the dead coming back to life. And I say the dead, I'm not speaking of what you find in modern Haiti today, where people have been poisoned and they wake from their grave. No, this is talking about the spirit of the dead, the esprit. If we go into Slavic cultures, Romanian, you'll find that there is a traditional word, Strigoi, or moroi. You'll find that this is reference to the dead waking to affect the living. See, when we start talking about Haiti, when we started dealing with the dead, what we refer to as the mort, it became the Zonbi. Now, the thing about the Zonbi, there's two versions of it. There is the spirit of the individual, and then there is the person who has been poisoned. And these are two different things. You know, when you poison someone, it knocks all the senses out. Now, a person who's experiencing that can tell you, the same. When it comes to the esprit, that is dealing with the numb. This is dealing with the soul. This is the part that haunts the living. Now, when you start talking about somebody that, they poison, that's a whole different ballgame. The capability of the numb, the Zonbi, it can cause illness, it can cause sickness. And one thing that most cultures can agree upon is that it robs the human being of vitality. You begin to see a person, they can be healthy, they full in the face. Soon as the spirit of the dead latches onto them, they start to look very sickly. when the vampire attaches itself to someone, it begins to suck them dry. Now, the concept of drinking blood, this is something that is European in origin, because back then they used to open up graves and they would see that the body of the dead was leaking out blood through his mouth, and they would assume that it was the living that they were living off of when it came to their vitality. Now in Haiti, you find a lot of people saying this esprit, la succession, la boisson. Now this is a figurative language. This is not literal. This is the life force of the human being being removed from their body. When you put a zombie, a mort, whatever you want to call it, let's just say the spirit of the dead on someone, it begins to rob them of their health. Yes, it can cause accidents, but the most common view when something like this attaches itself to people, you even find this in Palo Mayombe. They refer to it as a muerto. When it latches onto a human being, it begins to rob them of their vitality, illness. All manners of problems begin to happen to that individual. See, it's Hollywood that causes the viewer to view these two things as being different. A zombie is a vampire. Now, when you look at it, they both have the same origin. They're both making reference to the dead. But if you want to be technical, the word zombie, its origin is in Zambia, in Pungo. That is Congolese in origin, talking about the supreme creator. Now, how it became, associated with the dead, I have no idea. But this is how things change with time, linguistics, this is how things change. And again, how it became, associated with the dead, affecting the living, je ne sais pas. Anytime you send the dead out to seek revenge on the living, you're summoning a vampire, because the attributes of the dead when they latch onto a human being is to cause sickness. Yes, there's other things that may happen, but most cases, when you put a zombie, a muerto, mort, whatever you want to call it, on a person, they're going to get sick. En vérité, people are very picky when it comes to selecting the dead that they're going to work with. Because depending on how that individual dies, that will determine how the individual is affected. I mean, one big thing in a lot of circles in the sorcery game in Haitian culture is causing a person to have AIDS. They would go to the grave of someone who died of AIDS and use that spirit to affect the living. Now all of a sudden, they have full-blown AIDS out of nowhere.